Hey there, this is Ari Witten, and welcome back to the Energy Blueprint podcast. I'm your host, and today I'll be interviewing a very, very special guest, someone near and dear to my heart, who was my family's physician and my childhood physician. He's one of the first first preventive medicine doctors in the United States, and I'll read you his official bio here. He's a pioneer and well-known expert in the field of preventive medicine, integrative medicine, and clinical nutrition. He owns the distinction of being the first medical doctor to enter the field of preventive medicine in Southern California, and is a board-certified physician and surgeon with over 30 years of clinical experience as a practicing primary care physician. I think that number 30 years might be
that's about
at this point.
let's try 49 years.
49 years. And as the founder and director of the Meltzer Wellness Institute, Dr. Barnet Meltzer is a leading authority in health, wellness, and metabolic nutrition. He has a well-deserved reputation as Southern California's #1 wellness, weight loss, and energy coach. His credentials include graduating Phi Beta Kappa from the University of Pennsylvania School of Medicine, which was the first Ivy League medical school. Upon graduating from medical school, Dr. Meltzer completed his internship at UCLA and served 2 years of surgical residency at the University of California Medical Center in San Diego. And since opening his clinic in 1972, he's developed an international following with people all over the world seeking his consultation, including, by the way, I will mention to everyone listening, this is one of his books, one of several of his books, called The 10 Rules of High Performance Living. The foreword for this book was written by one of the greatest Olympic champions in history, Carl Lewis, one of the greatest sprinters and running champions in history. So quite strong. I hope that one day I will have a book with a foreword written by an Olympic champion talking about my methods. So welcome, Dr. Meltzer. Such a pleasure to have you on.
Well, Ari, thanks so much for that warm and wonderful greeting. And I'm sure that someday you will be just like that, have some famous entertainer, athlete that will acknowledge everything you've done for them. And we've known each other probably for over 30 years. And
yeah,
ever since you were a youngster, I could always tell you had that very ambitious spirit to help other people. So I'm glad to see that you're following through on your childhood intentions.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Yeah. And I think you've been seeing me since I was maybe 5 years old or something like that, 4 years old. We moved to Carmel Valley when I was 5, and you were in practice in the same location. Yeah. You still have an office in Del Mar.
We kept we saw each other with some regularity for the first, till you were about 25 or so. And then you went off to go on brighter pastures, and then we come back and forth and see each other from there.
Yeah, well, I came back. I saw you after I'd gotten Epstein-Barr virus and had mononucleosis, and you helped me greatly in my recovery from that, which actually, in hindsight, that was part of the impetus of why I started this whole brand, is that I was severely fatigued following that bout with mononucleosis, and it was the catalyst for making me very, very interested in the whole science of energy levels and chronic fatigue. So
absolutely. By the way, we should, when we finish with the podcast, we need to send it to the owner of the New York Jets, because they need to give Sam Darnold this information and how to overcome mono.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, on a personal note, I want to say you, maybe more than any figure in my early life, probably influenced the course of my trajectory in life without even realizing it, because
that's flattering. Thank you.
my parents came to you when they had health problems. Specifically, my dad was having all these stress-related problems from being a business owner. He had severe gastrointestinal pain and gut problems, and you had some very simple lifestyle interventions for him. You got him started meditating, started jogging and doing exercise, and eating a mostly vegetarian diet filled with organic fruits and vegetables, and a few other interventions, and they were life transforming for him. And my brother, when he was a youngster, my older brother, had all these health problems and chronic mucus and congestion and all these allergies and sicknesses, and you got him off dairy and figured out it was a dairy allergy. And so my parents started making almond milk, from the time I was born. By the way, they were one of the first people to be making almond milk, back in the 70s. And Yeah. So I think from the time I was a little kid, I was already coming up in this family that had awareness of so many of these
Makes sense.
natural health interventions and the power of nutrition and lifestyle to heal. So
Right.
I think you had a huge impact on my course, my trajectory in life, just by virtue of all that.
Well, thank you very much. That makes me feel rather special because you're a very special guy. And to think that I've made a difference in your world, that's very sweet of you. Thanks so much.
Yeah, thank you. So I want to talk to you about your book,
Okay.
The 10 Rules of High Performance Living. So first of all, what do you think are the main causes of people's fatigue problems? Why are we having this epidemic of chronic lack of energy that's become such a huge problem?
Well, that's a really good question. And there's a very simple but profound answer as far as I'm concerned to that question. Uh, let's put it this way. I kind of, to make it easy for people to understand energy, I can try to identify for them a concept that I've used for many, many years. I actually had it in one of my books that I never published, but it's actually called energy banking. And, I use it as an analogy for people to understand that, for example, when they make more deposits than they have withdrawals, they typically have money to fund, spend, do whatever they want with. But, when they spend more money or they have more expenses or more withdrawals in their deposits, they typically wind up in some type of, downside debt or owing money type of thing. And everybody can relate to that. If you say to them, if you deposit more money than you have withdrawals, or you have money, they go, yes. If you have more withdrawals and deposits, are you in a place where you're in negative cash flow? Yes. So then you just try to explain to them that fatigue is a metabolic debt. And so basically it comes down to the fact that one would typically, in 9 out of 10 cases, and your point about fatigue is very crucial because there's an epidemic in our culture right now. It started up about 30 years ago when you were a youngster, and it's picked up steam. You were able to avoid it because of your intelligence and your focus. But the great majority of folks from 35 and above suffer with what I call the stress fatigue syndrome or the tension fatigue syndrome, better known as burnout, where there's tiredness and fatigue and stress and restlessness and anxiety and often weight gain, etc. So the predicament is twofold. There typically aren't enough deposits and typically there's too much withdrawal. So let's go in the big picture, understand that if someone wants to create energy, then they have to approach it like they're trying to play the piano or, learn how to play tennis. They have to learn a system, an accountant, doctor. There's a way to do it. And our program, the 10 Rules of High Performance Living, basically in a nutshell, gives you a structure. It structures your day. It tells you when to work out, when to meditate, how to meditate, what to eat. In other words, it gives your body, works with the principle that your body's a rechargeable battery. And when you recharge your battery at regular intervals, it functions at its highest level. When you don't have the time to recharge your battery, the battery starts to wear out. So our program, the 10 Rules of High Performance Living, is really another way of saying, how do you have the supreme immune power that you could have? And the supreme immune power comes from keeping your battery charged. So typically when people are fatigued, we'll get back to that in a second, but you get my point. There are not enough deposits and there are typically too many withdrawals. Now it's interesting. Withdrawals are a little simpler than deposits because withdrawals only come in two forms. The two forms of withdrawals are triggered by what we call inflammation. So all dysfunction, all metabolic disorders, all health conditions, all illnesses, even collisions, if you will, but all dysbiosis, if you will, dysfunctional biological functioning is a result of inflammation. Now, every physician who studied health or any doctor would know that inflammation is the leading, triggers you to disease. Now, the interesting thing is if you ask a conventional doctor, what is the cause of inflammation? That's where you get stuck. He's just going to go inflammation. But between you and I, we know that the two root causes of inflammation are, number one, nutritional toxemia or nutritional acidity or the wrong foods, if you will. And the second is too much emotional stress and too much tension. And so emotional stress is inflammatory. The wrong foods are inflammatory, and they tend to be withdrawals. Now, if you have a lot of withdrawals and not enough deposits, so if you have $100,000 withdrawals and $35,000 deposits, you're going to be in the hole. So, you have to look at the left side of the curve, which are the deposits. You need to organize a daily wellness plan. Our program focuses on two very important principles: that your body is a biological clock as well as a rechargeable batteries. So we have people spend an hour of power in the morning. They charge their battery, a sunrise cleanse, we call it. It has 4 parts to it. It's called E.H.M.N, Amen, exercise, hydrotherapy, meditation, nutrition. So you get a full body charge in the morning, and that energizes you. And then you come back around 4:30, 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, and you do another charge. You do some yoga, you play tennis, you go out and take a hike, a walk, whatever. You go out with your lover, your friends, you do something physical. You take the hot and cold showers to get the hydro going. You meditate again and have a wonderful evening, and a good dinner. So if you charge your battery twice in a day and get a good night's sleep, you're getting 3 charges a day. So that's your deposit size. So if there's lack of exercise, there's lots of stress and, let's just say on the left side, there's lack of exercise, a lack of nutritional knowledge, not knowing what foods are inflammatory, or eating too many of the wrong foods, or eating too many foods, it'll cut back on your immune powers, you see. So your deposits have to be strong. And then you have to look at your withdrawal size and minimize your withdrawals. Make sure you don't have any what I call nutritional turnovers. Anybody who studies sports knows that the difference between winning and losing is turnover ratio. So, turnovers are eat the wrong foods, you're eating toxic inflammatory foods. And then if your body's under great deals of stress and you feel stressed, that's inflammatory. So that's pretty much what I'm saying is folks have too much stress, don't eat quite right, are not quite active enough, and they don't have a structured way of developing willpower, mind power, and soul power to prevent, the upheavals of everyday life.
Yeah. I want to say on another personal note, I happen to live 2 miles, 3 miles away from you. And as luck would have it, my favorite surf spot that I go surf usually a couple times a week with my brother happens to be, we park our cars literally right next to your house when we go surf. That's, we surf at the reefs in Del Mar, and that happens to be right where you live. And so we park there, and we often see you, and usually it's early morning, and
Right.
we often see you walking down the cliffs, getting your early morning hydrotherapies, going into
Right.
the ocean,
Right.
and taking a dip. And you even do this during the winter when the water is very, very cold and everybody else is in wetsuits. So you're how old now, Dr. Meltzer?
Well, I'm on the backside of 74. I'll be 75 in March.
Okay. And so you're still making it down those cliffs pretty much every day and taking a dip in frigid cold water. This is something we should all aspire to.
Well, the ocean, as you know from being a surfer, it can't be compared to anything. I mean, the spirit of the ocean is infinite. So for me, just getting in the water, just getting into that electrification, I kind of believe in electrifying your body in the morning. In other words, in a natural way. I don't mean through caffeine. I don't mean through listening to the news and all the killings and commercials on TV. I mean, in a natural way, exercise, getting your body, get the circulation, get the oxygen going, get your arteries elastic, get your body going, and then, I believe in hydrotherapy. Now, for me, like you said, I live right by the beach, so it would be against my principles of going in the ocean every morning, living as close to the water as I do. But, as soon as I get out of the ocean, I feel electrified. Yeah. Then you come up, you take a jacuzzi, you meditate. I mean, you feel like $1 million. Now, that's energy. You see, in other words, you make your deposit in the first hour of the day is what I'm saying. Now, if people don't make their deposits first and they have withdrawals without deposits, they're going to run into fatigue. But I've been a strong believer in taking the first hour of the day, call it the hour of power, call it the miracle hour, call it sunrise cleansing, call it what you may. But you want to activate all 4 parts of your military, meaning your immune system, your physical body, your mental body, your emotional body, and your spiritual body. So you exercise, you do the hydrotherapy, you meditate, you have good food. I mean, you're right there. You make your deposit.
In principle number 1 in your book, which is to simplify your life, you talk about the body as a rechargeable battery, the emotions as the magnet, and the mind as the transformer. Can you explain that?
Well, there's again, it depends on what you're trying to achieve. If your goal in life is to just, have a good living and have a good family life and all that, that's noble and it's achievable. But in the process, like I say, most people will develop the tension fatigue syndrome, the stress fatigue syndrome, some form of burnout, fatigue, weight gain, depression, anxiety, restlessness, high stress living, what have you. And of course, that always precedes somewhere between 4 to 10 or 15 years, any type of chronic illness. So people that suffer with arthritis and diabetes or, growths or, Parkinson's or whatever they have have had 4 to 7 years of burnout. It's not something that comes out overnight, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So you have, just like you have the Army, Navy, Air Force, and Marines, that's your, military to protect your country. Your body has a military, your physical body, your mental body, your emotional body, your spiritual body. They work together, but they have different functions. The Navy does different things than the Air Force does. So your physical body needs to be strong and powerful and has to be charged to give you the energy and to give you the strength to get through the world the way we have to. Now, your mind is a transformer. You see things positively or negatively depending on how your mind functions. So when you see things positively, you look for the good in things. You have a positive mental attitude. You expect things to go well. You have confidence in yourself. You believe in yourself. You have a positive outlook. That transforms your experience. You could say that your life is basically a movie, and what's on the movie comes from the projector, and the projector is your mind and your belief system. So with the right attitude and the right belief system, you're probably going to transform your life into a more enriched life. Now, on the other hand, with a negative attitude and a toxic belief system, you're probably going to create unforeseen complications. So that's what I mean by the mind's transforming. Now, the emotions, love is one of the more powerful, if not the most powerful force in the universe. So the more love you put out, love for life, love for the spirit, love for your family, love for your loved ones, love for whatever you love, the more love you generate, the greater your emotional magnet, and the more love you attract. So if you have an open, warm heart, and magnetism is everything. Basically the benefit of being healthy and energetic is that your being becomes a magnet that attracts positive energy into your life, whether it be in your home life, your work life, your spiritual life, your health, whatever is working on you. You're magnetic. You've got magnetism. But you see, there are small magnets, medium magnets, and large magnets. When you follow the structure of the 10 rules of performance living, you're basically investing in a strong magnet. So you have because ultimately, Ari, if you have the right exercise and attitude, and you have the right nutritional program, I believe that gets you to about 70. Okay. But 70 to 90, 70 to 80, climbing that slope up to 100, you got to have spiritual and emotional magnetism and a mental transforming willpower. So you can get pretty far with diet, exercise, and attitude, no doubt. But you ain't going to get to the top of Mount Everest with that. You're going to need emotional magnetism, spiritual magnetism, and mental, mind power, and which comes from using your mind to transform your thinking. So that's why we spend a lot of time in all the book chapters going over how to develop all those things, because like I say, you get to the Super Bowl, you need more than just a few things solid. You need to have it all.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Principle number 3 is to take charge of your life. And you have a quote there that I really love. You say, very much in line with what you were just expressing, you said, it's up to you to create a heartfelt, soul-filled love relationship with life. So what do you mean by that? A love relationship with life, a soul-filled love relationship?
Well, I think that, everybody, has different talents and different interests and different hobbies, etc. But, certain things just touch your soul. In other words, for somebody it could be music, for someone else it could be art, for someone else it could be dance, for someone else it could be helping people, So there are things that are good for your soul. They're just your identity, who you are. And you want your actions and your thoughts to be in harmony with your purpose in life. So, my input to people is this, there's lots of roads, lots of pathways. What is it you love to do? What is it you really love to do? Do you love to entertain? Do you love to write? Do you love to travel? Do you love to meditate? Do you love to do yoga? Whatever it is. And again, as long as it's not illegal, immoral, or unethical, if you love to chase butterflies, that's what you do. But you want to follow your heart. You want to follow your soul. Now, when you meditate and you learn to quiet your mind, you get your mind out of the game, you discover the truths of your soul. So you can be more in harmony with yourself once you learn how to deeply meditate. But let's just say you love to play music. You love to help people as a doctor. You love to ski, whatever, So you pursue the things in life that you love to do. And then you do the same thing with the people in your life. The love you put out is what comes back. The best way to receive is to give. So you create a loving, soulful, honest, caring connection with everyone that you love. Mm-hmm. And that you just don't wait for it to come to you. You put it out there. So I think your vibration creates magnetism. So as you create a vibration, of what you think would be loving and passionate and high quality, that vibration is, in my experience, helps you succeed at whatever your intention is.
Yeah, beautiful.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. There's something I don't know the answer to about you that I'm really curious about, and I think it's very much in line with this, which is your passion, what you love, your purpose, and your history. I mean, you were one of the first doctors, first MDs that specialized in preventive medicine back in the 70s, and back then this was not at all common thinking. I think for the most part nutrition and lifestyle stuff was thought as quackery and pseudoscience. And um, I'm just curious, what was it that led you down that path of realizing that nutrition and lifestyle was actually really important and made you want to pursue that as your career?
Well, again, that's a good question. It goes back quite a bit. As far as I remember, Ari, I was the first doctor of preventive medicine because there were no other doctors of preventive medicine. Here's how basically it went. I'll try to keep it as, not to make a long story longer, I'll try to keep it as short as I can. But when I was in my third year residency there, internship, third year of post-medical training at UCSD, my surgical residency, I spent a lot of time in the middle of the night, a lot of hours at night operating. I was actually one of the first residents in the VA hospital that opened. I was there to open the VA hospital when the VA opened back in the early 70s. I was one of the surgical residents that was on staff there, as a resident. So I got to see a lot of surgery, got to do a lot of surgery. And somewhere in my second year residency, I got touched. A very close friend of mine who also was a physician. He had some friends visiting from the East Coast that owned a health food store. Anyway, to make a long story longer, they were plant-based eaters and they were really mellow. We knew these guys from college. I went to Penn, he went to Cornell, and we knew these guys from college, and they were just really cool guys, fraternity brothers, but they were anything but tranquil and serene. And these guys were super serene and super tranquil. And we look at each other, and we always had a lot of energy, but I wasn't serene. I was pretty high powered. I mean, I wouldn't call myself serene or tranquil. So, we looked at each other and went, hey, what are these guys doing? I mean, just look at Jerry, look at Dennis. These guys are different. It's a couple of years since we've seen them, Well, they became vegetarian. Oh, okay. So I became a vegetarian. And then one thing led to the next. Before you know it, I was doing yoga, thinking about doing more yoga. And now I'm still a surgical resident. And a couple of surgeries I did were very, very, complicated. They were head and neck surgeries. What they are, they're radical neck dissections for someone that's developed gross cancers in their oral cavity. And I remember I had two experiences. One was that I'd done an 8-hour procedure on a gentleman and put in a trach tube for him. And a couple of days later, or when he was out, about a week or two later, he was an outpatient. I was looking for him, and I asked the nurse where he was because it was like 7 o'clock at night. And I used to come in Monday morning at 7 a.m. and go home Tuesday night at 7 p.m. So I'd be gone for 36 hours. I couldn't wait to get home, see my girlfriend, have something to eat, and go to sleep. I worked 30. You maybe slept an hour or two, okay, when you're on call. So, I couldn't wait to get home. It was 7 o'clock at night. Where's Mr. Jones? Where's Mr. Jones? Well, he's down the hallway. So I go down the hallway to look for him. Guess what? He's smoking a cigarette through his trach tube. So that freaked me out. And then the next day or 2 days later, and I'm not one of these people that has these, insights all the time, but I get them from time to time. I was doing a procedure, and again, we were doing a radical neck. And I'm thinking to myself, there's got to be a better way. There's got to be a better way. There's got to be a better way. And I probably said that to myself at least 4 times. And with that type of intensity while I'm doing the procedure, there's got to be a better way. And all of a sudden, this voice goes off and says, there is. I go, what's that? And it says, prevent disease. And I went, boy, that sure made sense. Mm-hmm. So, the idea of preventing a forest fire versus treating one really caught on with me. And it just hit me in my soul, hit me in my heart. And that's basically the path I followed. But at the time, there were no doctors of preventive medicine because when I was trying to leave surgery, I didn't know where to go because I didn't want to go into back in the hospital. And preventive medicine basically was public health and immunizations. That's not what I was interested in. Mm-hmm. So I had to do my own thing. And I set up a program back in the, like 71, 72, based on nutrition, exercise, and attitude. And over the years, it evolved into the 10 rules of high performance living. And I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. And I just want to make it clear, like you were doing this decades before it really became common and popular for people to be learning about nutrition and lifestyle and even really had a whole lot of sense around the fact that it was really important to prevent disease. I mean, you were doing this at a time where it was common for oncologists, unfortunately it still happens, but it's common for oncologists to say to cancer patients, it doesn't matter what you eat, you can eat candy bars and whatever else because that doesn't affect your cancer.
No, I think it's still prevalent that, oncologists will tell patients to eat more protein, particularly animal protein. So they're not included in as to the inflammatory components of animal fats, saturated fats, animal proteins, and the acidity in those foods. But, unfortunately, that's not where the mindset of conventional doctors are. They're not going in that direction. It's funny. When you get in touch with your soul, you can feel good physically, but until you really reach depth of your heart and soul, you don't feel right. And something in me told me that preventive medicine was right. And it didn't matter that other people didn't agree with me, and didn't matter that other people didn't understand it, and didn't matter that people thought I was eccentric for leaving surgery, because I knew it was right. Now, it's still here for almost 50 years. I've been out of medical school over 50 years. Here's 50 years later, is preventive medicine, is it a main theme in the nation's medical center? No, it's there, but it's a small vector. Maybe 1%, 2% of all doctors are go in the preventive, set. And then the ones that do, by and large, are so unhealthy, they can't really teach people how to be well. So it's kind of a difficult situation. But
Yeah, and they still don't really learn nutrition in medical schools. It's usually like 4 hours or less.
yeah,
It's almost nothing is part of
the
the
only
curriculum.
the only thing you learn in medical school nutrition is malnutrition. You get to see
Yeah.
scourge, rickets. That's it. But here's the thing that's interesting. Truth will always prevail. So I opened my office, clinically, made my statement late end of 71, 72. And as fate would have it, and I was at that time, like you say, the only doctor of preventive medicine that I knew that even existed at the time. And I thought I was it, the only one. And then Richard Nixon got elected president in December or November of 72. And then in January of 73, Nixon, because of his diplomatic skills, they dissolved the Iron Curtain, which meant that before that happened, there was no transcultural exchange between the East and the West, meaning China and the United States in terms of culture. So all of a sudden, the Iron Curtain came down. They found out about drugs, sex, rock and roll, Coca-Cola, fast food, et cetera, junk food. We found out about yin and yang and acupuncture and preventive medicine and yoga and meditation. Well, I never heard of that. And all of a sudden, I find out from looking into it, the Emperor of China in 5000 BC was a physician, and he was the first doctor of preventive medicine and wrote the book called The Yellow Emperor's Annals of Internal Medicine. So that blew my mind. I mean, if there was a 5,000-year history of preventive medicine that I didn't even know existed.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Fascinating stuff. I was always curious about that as far as your personal background.
yeah,
I'm curious, one final note here, what
sure.
you think of the modern day landscape of what conventional MDs are doing when it comes to disease. I mean, we have massive epidemics of cardiovascular disease still is hugely prevalent after many decades, cancer, diabetes, obesity, neurological disease, autoimmune disease, these things over the time, the 50 years that you've been in practice, all these things have become epidemics as a direct result of nutrition and lifestyle habits. And yet,
Correct.
as we said, conventional doctors are still not being trained in nutrition. What do you think of the current landscape of conventional medicine?
Well, I mean, you have to get the big picture on this, okay? That's why I call myself a doctor of integrative medicine, because I know traditional medicine. I don't have the surgical skills I did in the early days, of course, but I have the judgment skills. But, when you integrate traditional medicine and preventive medicine, that's integrative medicine. But here's the point. Conventional medicine is downstream, taking the wounded bodies out of the river. Now, there are a lot of wounded bodies going down the river because the wounded bodies are not taking accountability for their lifestyle, number one. I'm upstream trying to keep the bodies from getting into the river. So as long as there's a lot of people downstream for the river, it's not going to change. It's not going to change until people find out that they're accountable for their health. Now, here's the deal. You can go up to the most famous doctor who's Nobel Prize or whatever and say to him, what's the cause of ovarian cancer? Is it genetic or breast cancer? Is it genetic? Is it a bug, a virus, or an infection? Is it just you're in the wrong place at the wrong time, bad luck? Or number four, is it lifestyle choices? So I'll do it again. Number one, is it genetic? Number two, is it an infection? Number three, is it a victim thing where you're in the wrong place at the wrong time? Or number 4, is it a lifestyle choice? And until doctors and people recognize that their illnesses are results of their lifestyle choices and not their inheritance, and not something that they caught. You never hear someone when they catch a cold say, you know, I really was stressed out, ate the wrong foods at the party, ate too much eggnog and too many dairy products and too much cheese and too much meat and too much of this and that and too much sugar. No, they don't ever say that. They go, oh, you know, I was in the front row at the party and people were coughing, or at the movie, and I went to the daycare center. Everybody's always pinning their not feeling well on something else instead of taking accountability for it. So as long as traditional medicine allows you and disempowers you from taking accountability for your health, their direction is not going to change. The doctor-patient relationship is over. That era is over. Most doctors are consumed by getting paid now because of the EMR, the electronic record, and all they can do is spend their time doing the record, and who knows what they're going to get paid. So it's a robotic system. I think it's going in the wrong direction. There's a handful of doctors of preventive medicine out there. Whether they will have enough clout to take over, I doubt it in the next 50 years. But eventually, just like the Chinese culture, 5,000 years, they have an emphasis on preventive medicine. That's why people do Tai Chi twice a day there. Now, their nutrition's not right, but the rest of it is, you know, they got the mind-body thing going. Emotionally, they could certainly be more balanced as a culture, but they have the idea. I mean, I try to put all the, in High Rule, 10 Rules, High Performance Living, I try to put the best together from the North, East, West, and South, since I've traveled to all these places. But what I'm saying is traditional medicine is traditional medicine. It's interventional. It's not going to shift. People don't take, by and large, most folks are not willing to take responsibility for their health. They have an illness. It's not their responsibility. It's not because of their choices. They won't look at it that way. They can't see it that way. Oh, well, I'm so sorry this happened. I'm so sorry you have Parkinson's. I'm so sorry you have diabetes. I'm so sorry you have heart issues. Of course we're sorry. But the people's choices are what led to it. Now, until people realize that, the traditional medicine is not going to change.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because there are going to be a lot of bodies down the stream, a lot of wooden bodies down the river. What are you going to do with those bodies?
Yeah.
Doctors are consumed with, you know, it would, some doctors, you can't get an appointment with them for 6 weeks to 3 months.
Mm-hmm.
Who are part of these, you know, networks. Are they fabulous doctors? No, that's how many people need to be seen.
Yeah. There's a never-ending supply of bodies floating down the river.
Yeah. You and I are upstream. So
Yeah.
all I can say is this on a positive note.
Yeah.
The folks that want to stay well, there's a way to do it. Okay. But you do have to go upstream and you have to swim upstream. So that's the point. If you are not willing to swim upstream through exercising and changing your mindset and eating right and meditating and making a more simple, balanced life for yourself, better, healthy relationships, more loving, creative relationships, more soulful, constructive living, unless you're willing to take that tack, you're probably floating along thinking everything's great. And you know, you won't see the warning sign down the stream till about 200 feet before the falls. And then it's going to go, danger, warning, falls 200 feet. And the doctors and nurses are downstream. Now, those that are willing to, you know, have a lifestyle comparable to the 10 rules, they're willing to work out, they're willing to charge their battery, they're willing to transform their mind, their love, their heart, their soul. Those people swimming upstream, they can avoid most of going downstream. But at the end of the day, to get to the top, you will need emotional and spiritual magnetism.
Mm-hmm. Beautiful. A big part of your methods are nutritional balance. This is principle number 6 in your book, and the 10 rules of high performance living. Maintain nutritional balance. What does good nutrition look like for you? And I'm also curious, you know, given that you've been doing this for 50 years, has there been any big shifts in your thinking around nutrition as far as what you thought initially versus what you think now?
No, you know, what I intuitively discovered and I came to realize through my medical background and my study of biochemistry and my understanding of clinical nutrition has not shifted one iota. The only thing that has shifted is the science has validated my philosophies. For example, back in the early 70s, I called the Delmar diet, which was my first book, a high enzyme diet, because we hadn't found out about things like phytonutrients and antioxidants, okay? But in a nutshell, to make it simple for your viewers, you break down to nutrition like, you know, I call it red light, yellow light, green light nutrition, just like driving, okay? There are inflammatory foods. There are anti-inflammatory foods. The anti-inflammatory foods are the green lights. The inflammatory foods are the red lights. I encourage people to eat no inflammatory foods. And then there are a few yellow foods in between, very few. But by and large, the inflammatory foods are foods that when you burn them in your metabolism, what happens is based on the mineral composition of the food, based on the chemistry of the food, not the caloric content, not the fat content, based on the chemistry of the food, After the body metabolizes the food either becomes acidic or alkaline. Now, if the food becomes acidic, acidic ash is inflammatory. So here are the foods that are highly inflammatory: meat protein, chicken protein, turkey, pork, seafood protein, most standard dairy products and eggs, sweets, caffeine, alcohol, butter, white foods, white rice, white bread, white noodles, soft drinks, energy drinks, Coca-Cola, etc. Now, the majority of folks live on inflammatory foods. So I've been trying to get people off those foods for 50 years. Only a handful of people do it, and some do this and some don't do that. But to me, it's red light, green light. Stay away from the red light foods. And the green light foods, fruits, vegetables, whole grains, legumes, nuts, and seeds. You build a plant-based diet as your principal part of your diet. That's 95% of it. If you're going to have any dairy products, if you want yogurt, get the cashew yogurt. If you want cheese, use the vegan cheese. If you're going to eat regular cheese, use the rennet-free cheese. So that's the yellow light. The vegan cheese, the rennet-free cheese, the almond cheeses and things like that. So you do those once in a while just to balance out your diet if you don't want to be full vegan. But, I've told people since 1971 to only eat plant-based foods. The science has just validated it. I mean, there's not one day, even last week or 2 weeks ago, it was unbelievable. The Harvard School of Public Health finally came out, 48 years later, and finally came out and said that the science has proven that people that eat meat have shorter lifespans and more accelerated disease. I mean, the professor said it at Harvard.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
Gotcha.
It's out there.
Yeah. Another aspect of what you're doing is cleansing, seasonal cleansing. This is something that I grew up doing as a result of your influence. My parents were doing. What is this seasonal cleansing all about? And it was sort of, I think, almost a modern precursor. It was a precursor to the modern popularity of now fasting. The last few years, fasting has become very popular. And the truth is, you've been talking about some degree of kind of a modified fast cleanse type approach to be done every 3 months. You've been talking about this for what, 30 years or 50 years?
50 years.
Wow.
It's been ever since you go my first book, Delmar Diet. It's in there. Okay. I believe in what I call seasonal cleansing. I believe that you need to have a pure bloodstream, a pure body to live at the highest level of energy. So for example, the best analogy I give people is this, that no matter, how well you drive, every 3 months, it makes sense to have an oil change and get your new oil in the system. So I encourage people to cleanse for 5 days every 3 months, 10 days or so before the seasonal equinox. So for example, 2 days from now, the 20th is the seasonal equinox. So I did my cleansing right after Labor Day. Now your choices are cleansing is you can do all living foods, all salads and fruits and raw vegetables and fresh fruits, or you can do smoothies and fresh fruits and raw vegetables. That's your cleansing diet: fruits and nuts, salads and guacamole, salad, and green drinks, etc., and smoothies. Now I do what's called a super cleanse. I go on the liquid diet, the juice fast. So I do 5 days just on liquids, the super cleanse, every 3 months. So, whether you do the super cleanse or the live food cleanse, they're both very effective. But I do want to encourage all people to change your oil every 3 months, typically 10 days before the seasonal change. So the next change will come right after the next seasonal cleanse will be the Tuesday after Thanksgiving, and that will get people ready for the winter cleanse. Then the next one's the first week in March to get you ready for the spring season, and then one right after Memorial Day. So it's pretty easy to remember. Labor Day, Memorial Day, Thanksgiving, the Tuesdays thereafter, okay? And then the first week in March is the 4 times a year you go on a 5-day cleanse.
Mm-hmm. 2 things. So what is the significance of those times? Why does it need to be timed in accordance with the seasons?
Because, what happens is, being part of the chemistry of life, as the seasons change, the leaves change, the weather changes, so does your body. And your body needs to be grounded and centered for the seasonal change. It's a change in the environmental chemistry, and your body chemistry can shift. So I always believe that if you're grounded and rooted in seasonal change, you don't get sick. Very often people get colds, sicks, and flus. As a matter of fact, if I worked in the clinic 1 week every 3 months, I'd work the week of the seasonal change. So I'd work the week like this week, September 13th to September 20th, because between the last week or so, right around the change and into the first part of the change, people get the flu, they get digestive troubles, they get into trouble. They tilt. They tilt every 3 months. Now, if you do the cleanse, you don't tilt. I always get a cold in the fall. Oh, I always get a cold in the winter. Yeah, you haven't cleansed. That's why. Your lymph all clogged up. So, so I think it's very important to get centered and grounded. The actual seasonal change typically starts evolving like it's still going on right now. It started about a few days ago. The nights are different. The mornings are a little different. And so I want to have everything set by the time the season changes. So that person is cleansed, purified, grounded, rooted, oil changed, and they're grounded and ready like a strong tree to bend with the seasonal change, but not break.
Yeah. Gotcha. So what are these cleanses actually doing for us at the cellular, at the metabolic level? What's happening in our bodies that's so important?
Well, they're purifying and eliminating the toxins we talked about. Remember, we said in the beginning, fatigue. One of the things that cause fatigue is nutritional toxemia, which is inflammatory. So how do you get rid of the toxins? Well, here's how you get rid of it: out with the old, in with the new. The positive cleans out the negative. So you flood yourself with pure, fresh, whole living food, and that purges the negative toxins out of your body.
Gotcha.
So you have to, if you don't purge the toxins, I mean, your body does the best it can. Liver can detox. Don't think you don't have some detox mechanism. You can breathe in from the back of a bus. Your body will detox it. But if you have 3 months of chronic inflammatory stress and inflammatory foods, your body needs to purify itself for the next season, or you're going to start the season muggy. It just builds up. People who get ill, they have 4 to 7 years of this stuff backing up on them.
Mm-hmm. Another one of the principles of your book is, this is number 7, develop the habit of physical fitness and keep metabolically fit. Do you have any thoughts or tips on what types of exercise or regimen for exercise that you recommend for people?
Well, as I say, I recommend exercising twice a day: in the morning charge and the sunrise charge, sunset charge. I like at least one cardio a day. You're running, you're jogging, you're biking, you're playing tennis, and one yoga or one lighter bike or something like that. But, it doesn't matter what you do, but you need a cardio, something that, is a aerobic, swimming, biking, running, jogging, some machine that you work on vigorously. You need to break a sweat is what I'm saying. And then you can do another exercise, but it could be yoga or Tai Chi or something like that. It could be, a stationary bike or something like that. So you want to have the 5 features of your exercise. You want to be able to have cardiovascular fitness. You need to have strength and power. So it helps to have some resistance training. Wouldn't hurt. I mean, I go to the gym 3 days a week and lift weights, So I would say resistance training, that you're built and buffed up. So, working out, exercise, resistance training, build up that. Some mind-body discipline, like a yoga or Tai Chi, and something that allows you to have flexibility like yoga. So you need flexibility, balance, coordination, so if you work out twice a day, one aerobic, one mind-body, something like that. But I do recommend people do 2 exercise periods a day at the 2 charges.
Excellent. One of the final recommendations in your book, well, there's 2 I want you to comment on. One is heal your soul, and the last one is, or the 9th one, I should say, not the last one, but the one I want you to comment on here is define your purpose in life. I feel like those are also somewhat connected.
Yeah, they're very connected. They're just different levels of spiritual evolution. Healing your soul, people have a lot of restlessness in their life. They have a lot of anxiety and stress in their life. And their mind is so filled with chatter and inner chatter and circular thinking back and forth, what have you, doubt, worry, fear, anxiety, etc. It's kind of so turbulent that it doesn't give people a chance to find out their truth. I mean, everybody has a soul, and the soul has certain features. For example, it offers you quietude, it offers you tranquility, it offers you peace, it offers you joy, it offers you healing powers. But you have to go find them. You have to be able to, that's the secret to life. You see, you got to figure out that power is within you. But if you can't stop your mind, you can't discover your soul. So that's why, I started going to Self-Realization Fellowship like about 45 years ago. So I started studying the scientific methods of meditation they taught me years ago. And basically what I learned was you have to be able to stop your mind so you can discover your soul. So that's basically it. You have to learn how to meditate effectively so that you can get into the truth of your soul. And it's, once you have that connection with your soul, whatever life decisions you make, you try to make it in harmony with your truth. If you don't really know your truth, your decisions may be out of harmony with your truth.
And finding your purpose ties into that. I mean, that is your truth.
Yeah, it is your truth. Who are you? What do you believe in? What do you want to make a difference in life at? Where do you want to make a difference? How are you going to help other people? What is your purpose? And that's where your passion comes in. You see, follow your passion and find a way to help other people and be useful to other people. Follow your passion and find a way to be helpful and useful to other people, and you will be happy.
Yeah, beautiful. My final question to you is, having been in practice for 49 years, having been the first or one of the first preventive medicine specialist MDs in the country. What is the one thing, the one, we've obviously talked about a lot of important things here, but what is the one little nugget that you really want to leave people with?
My nugget is make time for wellness. Your illness will make time for you. You must have a daily routine. You must have structure. Structure leads to immune power. Superstructure leads to super immunity. Super immunity leads to super consciousness. You need super consciousness to climb to the top of the mountain. It starts with superstructure. You exercise 3 days a week. You meditate when you can. You try to stress reduce. No, you have a morning routine. You have an attitude routine. You have a mind routine. You have a belief routine. You have a nutritional program. You only eat anti-inflammatory food. You recharge your battery regularly. You meditate to discover your, God-realized willpower, and you just have a system. I mean, you talk to anybody that's successful. No great surgeon doesn't have a system. No great attorney doesn't have a system. Everybody has a system. For what reason? I used to think doctors were smarter than contractors. Let me tell you why I disagree. Doctors are very smart. They're just not wise. Have you ever met a contractor when you ask them to build a house or a building that wouldn't start with the foundation? Have you ever met well, I never met one. They always start with the foundation. Yet I've never met a doctor that knows to start with the foundation.
Mm-hmm.
So you need a foundation. The foundation comes from your daily routine. No daily routine. Sorry, folks. No foundation. So what do I discover on 100 people that I evaluate who come in to see me? Every time out of every 100 people, underdeveloped immune systems. Not that they don't have the ability, that they don't have the. Remember, here's the thing you got to remember. When you wake up in the morning, what do you have to do to get your heart started?
Do some movement.
Well, actually, you know what I mean. You don't do anything. It's going by itself.
Okay.
Okay. And what do you have to do in the morning when you wake up to get your breathing going?
Nothing. It happens
It
automatically.
starts by itself. They're involuntary. Yeah. So they're involuntary function. They operate whether you want them to or not. But what's interesting is that's not how your immune system metabolism works. Your immune system metabolism have to be charged. They have to be charged or they're not going to work. So if you don't charge you want surveillance. What happens to the inmates when there's no surveillance in the penitentiary?
They go wild.
Okay. So you need surveillance to overview your body and your body chemistries and any toxins in your body. So if you don't activate your surveillance and you don't have surveillance and you have a structured surveillance, hello, SHTG. You know what that stands for? SHTG. No. Say hello to goodbye. Anyway, that's my message. Get organized, study the program, have structure, have a system, have a meditation routine, an exercise routine, a nutritional program. Get with it.
Beautiful. Well, Dr. Meltzer, this has been a pleasure. I've been wanting to do this with you for a very long time. As I said, this is very personally meaningful to me, given that you were my childhood doctor and influenced my trajectory, I think, in more profound ways than you realize or would take credit for. But I really, really enjoyed this. And for everybody listening, I highly recommend go on Amazon, pick up this book, 10 Rules of High Performance Living. Dr. Meltzer, is there anywhere else you'd like to direct people to online programs or other books of yours or anything like that?
I keep most of the books I keep are in the office. I don't really have them in the bookstores. I'm still in practice down there at 1011 Camino Del Mar in Del Mar. So, the books are there if you want to come by and get one. Or, whatever. Like I said, I'm a consultant. I'm there to help people. Anybody that's looking to really develop higher levels of immune power, more energy, energy coach, health coach, whatever, want to have issues in their lifestyle, have health issues, I'm more than happy to be available. But, I'm sure there's some books in Amazon. That's fine too. Wherever they, I don't have them in the bookstores anymore.
I highly recommend for people in San Diego, I highly recommend they see you as well. Obviously, I'm still alive. I'm healthy. I'm doing great. You obviously helped my parents tremendously as well. And I'm sure I think you were helping my dad before I was even born. So probably you've affected my health epigenetically through his sperm, through the lifestyle changes that you had.
I'm proud to have been your doctor. You've turned out to be quite a young man. So I'm very proud of you.
Thank you.
Anytime I can be supportive, let me know. But, my message to people is, make time for wellness in their lives or they're going to be disappointed.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. Okay, so Dr. Meltzer, you've been in practice for 49 years, as we've said. You've worked with a lot of different kinds of people. At this point in your career, who are you looking to work with, and do they need to come see you in person, or can you work with people via online consults and online calls and things like that, or phone calls? But what is your ideal patient, or your ideal client that you'd really love to work with?
Well, I have two or three main types. I'd say anybody that's really looking to stay well and be well, that wants some, really advanced coaching in terms of how to do that, how to climb that ladder to success. I think that people that have conditions that have been diagnosed with whether it's diabetes or arthritis or Parkinson's or any kind of digestive disorder, what have you, respiratory disorder, that want an alternative, that want to build their systems up, and have an integrative approach to it, that want to get some advice on how to overcome a condition, what they can do to reverse a condition, how to overcome burnout, reverse burnout, how to treat burnout, how to treat fatigue, stuff like you do. But, basically, people that have burnout, they want to be coached out of the burnout. I mean, that's important. Basically, I tell people there's a difference between success and prosperity. And I like people that are successful, that want to be prosperous. And my distinction is that prosperity is success plus health plus happiness. So I get a lot of people who are successful, but they're not healthy or happy. And so I coach them in that area. And, basically, people that are looking for a way to, if they have been diagnosed with MS or been diagnosed with a digestive disorder or a liver condition or a kidney condition, and they want to see if there's an alternative or a way to overcome it, that's where I come in. That's where I have my special interest. And I love helping people overcome conditions and reversing things.
Beautiful.
So I coach those kind of people. Yeah, for sure.
Beautiful. What is the best way for people to reach out to you if they want to work with you?
Well, I'm in the office Tuesdays and Fridays. My number is 858-481-7102. I'll say it again, 858-481-7102. I do phone consults. I do, video chats. It'd be best if I could see someone at least once in person, because then I can read their pulses and figure out their immune system. I can give them a lot of good advice over the phone, and I can do even better by looking at them. But it's best if I can even see them once. Like I got a lady coming in from Sweden next week who was just diagnosed with MS, and she wanted how long to stay. I said, well, just give me a day or two, and then you can go back. The rest we can do by video chat or et cetera. So, but it does help for me to see them once. Yeah, it does help. But, if it's impossible, we could do it by a video chat. Yeah.
Okay. Dr. Meltzer, thank you for everything you've done for my family and for me personally. And thank you for sharing your wisdom with my audience here. Again, everybody listening, go grab his book. Highly recommend him. Thank you so much, Dr. Meltzer. And I hope to talk to you again in the near future.
It's been my pleasure. Thanks so much for your professional and your very intelligent nature. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey there, this is Ari again. One more quick thing before you go. Just make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel, The Energy Blueprint, and also make sure to subscribe to this podcast on your favorite podcast platform, whether that's iTunes or Stitcher or anything else. I hope you guys enjoyed this interview, and I will see you again next week.